Yes.
So we continue. So every portion of the tefillah, every letter of the tefillah, every place we have to stand, every place we have to bow, has a very, very specific and precise cheshbon. Cheshbon is, structure and reason. And it's all aligned with the tikkunim that we have to do in order to elevate the orot, right, all the way to the Olam Atzilut, and bring down the orot from Olam Atzilut back to the world. Right? Ma'in Nukvin and Ma'in Dechorim. And the Ari HaKadosh in Shar HaKavanot explains that Shaharit, what happens is that the Pnimiyut, the internal or, okay, from Keter Chochma and Bina, from each world, right? So you have Keter Chochma and Bina from Olam HaAsiyah, Keter Chochma Bina from Olam HaBri'ah, from Yetzirah of the Bri'ah, right? So each Keter, the Pnimiyut of each Keter Chochma and Bina, of each world, elevates itself and enters the upper world. So Keter Chochma and Bina Yetzirah elevate the Pnimiyut of Keter Chochma Bina in Asiyah elevates itself, right, and enters the Olam HaYetzirah. The Keter Chochma and Bina of Yetzirah elevates itself and enters Olam HaBri'ah. The Keter Chochma and Bina of Olam HaBri'ah, right, elevates itself to the Olam HaAtzilut.
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Now, we know that if you are Penimi, which is more intense in the lower world, when that or elevates itself, it becomes a chitzoni, right? Because it elevates itself to a world that's more spiritual than that essence. So it makes it an or chitzoni. So when you have Keter Chochma Bina, for example, that elevates itself from the world of Asiyah into the world of Yetzirah, it goes from or penimi and becomes or chitzoni, right?
Right. We said that before.
Right? Yes, we've discussed that in the past.
Yeah.
Good. So what's happening now that if you look at everything, we end up with 13 sefirot per world, right?
Yeah, 3 times 10.
10 sefirot plus the Keter Chochma Bina from the lower olam that goes up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what's the question? The question is, what's happening with Olam HaAsiyah? Because the Olam HaAsiyah, there's nothing below it.
So do you mean do you start on the Chitzoni on the, is that what your question is?
Well, my question is, if from you have an elevation from Keter Chochma Bina from each world to the next one, right?
Right.
What happens so what happens to Olam HaAsiyah? There's nothing below it, right? So what penetrates the Olam HaAsiyah to get to a count of 13?
So what gets it started?
Yes. So the Ari HaKadosh explains that it's not really Keter Chochma and Bina from a different world because we don't have it, but it's the nitzotz. It's the spark. That basically goes from the deepest, the darkest places of Olam HaAsiyah, right, and basically gets sparked up, right? The light gets turned on, And that nitzotz has the b'china, is almost comparable, comes from almost the same spirit of Ketech Chochmah and Bina to take place in the Olam HaAsiyah.
Okay, so how do you start that up? How do you spark it?
The tefillah. So, for example.
So the Asiyah is the highest because you're creating something from nothing.
So,
the other ones you're only transforming. So I guess the Asiyah is the highest level.
No, it's not the highest level. It's just that it's a nitzotz that is existent,
right,
but just not turned on. That basically turns on to complete the concept of 13. Now, good question. Okay, so how do you make that happen? How do you consolidate, or how do you structure those 13 sefirot within each world? So, if you look at each section of the tefillah in Shacharit, right? So, from Korbanot all the way to Baruch She'amar, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have the Olam HaAsiyah, correct? So in the Olam HaAsiyah, you will find that we say the Yud Gimel Midot, Shatorah Nidreshet Bahem, right? You with me?
Yeah, I'm with you. You're saying, how do you consolidate the Sefirot? You're saying that on the beginning is Olam HaAsiyah, and then it keeps going all the way up to...
Yishmael, 13 מידות נדרשת התורה, מקל וחומר, מגזרה שווה, מבניין אב וכתוב אחד, right? So when you say that, there's 13 midot that the Torah is nidreshet, and when you count those 13 midot, right, attributes that the Torah can have a drasha from, you consolidate the 13 sefirot from the world of Asiyah.
I love that.
Okay.
Beautiful.
When you start Baruch She'amar, there is 13 Baruch. You consolidate the 13 Sefirot from the world of Yetzirah. When we say Yishtabach Shimcha, right? We're right at the right before the Kaddish, right? Of Barechu, we say Yishtabach, right? You have 13 praises of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Which is why I like Adola Gibor Vanorados. Which ones are those?
Yishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkenu, Akel HaMelech HaGadol HaGibor Eno HaKadosh Baruch Hu, כן?
Yeah, but where's the 13? Shirush Bacha Halil. Got it. I figured that. Beautiful.
You consolidate the 13 Sefirot from the world of
Yetzirah.
Bria. Even though Yishtabach is basically at the end of the world of Yetzirah.
Yeah. Right? You go back?
But no. Yishtabach is basically the transition that connects to the Kaddish in order to enter the world of Bria, right? So you have Baruch She'amar, which is the 13 attributes that consolidate the Olam HaYetzirah.
Okay.
Then you have Yishtabach that consolidates the 13 the 13 Sefirot in the world of Bria.
No, you said the Baruch so first of all, the 13 attributes is worth of Asiyah.
That's Bishmael Omer.
Before. Then you go to Baruch She'amar, and then you hit the Yetzirah, and now you're going into the
which is the
Bria. Right.
And how do we know? If you recall, we spoke about 3 names in the beginning that were transactional names: Kel Amunai, Kel Havaya, and Kel Shagai. You remember?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Kel Shagai is the name, okay, that transitions and that refers to Olam HaBri'ah. You remember that?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. So, when what's the word before Yishtabach?
Echad.
Opa. Echad Yishtabach. Echad, the Dalet of Echad. Yishtabach is Yud Shin. Shin Dalet Veyud.
I love that.
This is the siman that we're entering, we're penetrating the world of Bri'ah. And through that, and once we've consolidated the Shin Dalet Veyud, right? Then we say the 13 attributes for the Olam HaBri'ah.
Like you completing that circle when you say Echad Yishtabach, you closing that and then you're starting something new.
That's right.
Love it. Oh, beautiful.
Then we have during the Amidah, right? We have the 13 berachot in the middle of the Amidah, right? From Ata Honen le'adam da'at until Baruch Ata Hashem shomea tefillah, you have 13 berachot.
Okay. So that's that would be
each one consolidates the 13 sefirot in the world of Atzilut.
So that's from Yotzer Or all the way to Shema.
All the way to Amidah.
To Amidah, okay.
Right? That's Bri'ah.
Right.
Once you start the Amidah, you're in the world of Atzilut. And you consolidate it through the 13 berachot from Ata Chonen le'adam da'at all the way to Baruch Ata Hashem shomea tefillah.
Okay.
Good?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's the highest.
Yes.
So why shomea tefillah and not the end of the Amidah?
Because you have this is the part of the Amidah that you have that is changing. The first portion, right? The Avot
doesn't change. Doesn't change the Avot.
The Shvach and the Hodaya never changes.
Right. The middle is changed.
Let's say until the end, or from the beginning of the Amidah all the way to Akel HaKadosh, right? Mm-hmm. The Shvach, the first portion is called Shevach, and the last portion is called Hodaya, mm-hmm. Right? These portions are generic, never changes. Never
wow.
changes. The only thing that changes is what's in the middle.
So it's from where? From Ata Chonen until Shomea Tefillah?
Chodesh, yeah. Yom Chol, Yom Kippur, Ne'ilah, that's the only part that changes. Right? So in a regular Amidah, you have 13 berachot. That's consolidating the 13 sefirot. Now,
of Atzilut.
Of Atzilut, yeah.
Amazing.
Now, what's very important is to understand that the most important part of the Amidah is not the actual Amidah, but the Chazara of the Amidah.
I was going to ask that just now. That's funny. You just read my mind.
Explain. Because when you make the tefillah yourself quietly, you make a yehud in the sfirot hatachtonot. So what's happening is that you're consolidating netzach hod yesod. Okay? That's what you're consolidating while you're doing the Amidah. Okay? Let's recall and not forget that as you start your tefillah, you elevate the world, right? You elevate the world. You're connecting one world and parallel and elevating into another world, right?
Yeah.
So what we want is we want the Shekhinah, right, to become one with the Zeir and Pin and the Abba Ve'ima, right? During the Amidah Belachash, the Yehud happens in Netzach Hod Yesod, right? So in the third section, the lower section of the Sefirot, that's the Yehud that happens. This is what we're unifying when we're doing the Tefillah, the Amidah, belachash, quietly.
Okay.
Good. Now, we know that Netzach, Hod, and Yesod are exposed to the klipot, right? We know that. We spoke about it.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we say it quietly. Because if we say it out loud, the klipot can come and take, and attach themselves to the kedusha of the Netzach Hod Yesod that has been elevating, to the or that it's receiving from the elevation. So we cannot say it out loud. Because if you say it out loud, the klipot can hear it, you attract attention, and they come and they bond, they attack, if you want, the light of that of those sefirot.
Okay.
When we do Hazarat Hashat, the Yehud happens b'chesed gvura tiferet. So it's consolidating not only the Nehi, Netzach Hod Yesod, but it's consolidating and unifying the Chesed Gvura and the Tiferet together. Okay? From the Olam HaAsiyah all the way down to the Olam HaAtzilut. It's unifying all of those Sefirot and putting them together and making them one. Now, we know that Chesed Gvura and Tiferet don't have any achiza, right, from the klipot. The klipot cannot touch Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet because they're too high. Their or is too intense.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we can say it out loud. But why is it so important? Why is it so important? Because it's only once you have Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet that are united, right? Only at that point you have the full Chasadim that are now one for the Mohin, for the Keter Chochma Binah, right? To be able to start shining upon that structure. So it's almost like now it's the consolidation of the vessel that can now receive the ore from the Mohin. This is why the Chazara is extremely important. We spoke also about how the Binah, right, lifts during the Chazarat Hashat, lifts up and unveils the Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet in order to let them consolidate itself. We spoke about it in the past.
Yep.
So here we understand that doing the Amidah is great, but is subject to attack of the klipot. That's why we say it quietly, not to attract any attention.
Uh-huh.
However, it doesn't stop here. We must also consolidate and unify the Sirot HaElyonot, which is Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet, to complete the Chasadim in order to be able to receive the Or at that time. Right? So the Chazara is the completion of the Avodah, and that's what allows the Orot from the Mochin, from Chochma Binah, Kote Chochma Binah, to shower and come down and fill up that vessel.
Beautiful.
This is why the Chazara is so important. And if Khalila we miss Amen, or we don't listen or whatever, so we're it's like, oh, you're at the finish line, but you don't cross the line. Good?
Incredible. Good. It's more than good. It's very good.
Now, the Zohar HaKadosh says that it's one thing to do the tefillah b'dibur, right? But it also has to be done b'maaseh.
So time out 1 second. When they do Bekol Ram, how are they attacking both? In other words, you're not completing it because you're saying it loud, so you're not doing the first three. You're not doing Netzach.
What are you talking about?
When you say Amidah Bekol Ram.
What do you mean Bekol Ram? Chazara or just
no Chazara. They do Bekol Ram, meaning
there's no Amidah Bekol Ram. Even if they do Bekol Ram, the second they start doing the Yud Gimel Berachot, it goes silent.
That's my question. So what do you trigger out of the 6 Sefirot that you just mentioned? You're not doing Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet because you're not loud.
Correct.
So
It's an issue. It's an issue.
that's my question. So what do you tap?
So what you're doing is right. You're trying to tap into the consolidation of both olamot, of both layers of Sefirot Tachtonot and Sefirot Elionot inside one avodah. You understand? So you trigger it with the Kol Ram of the Shvachim and Hodaya, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you consolidate the Sefirot Atachtonot with the Yud Gimel Berachot in the middle of the Amida. But it's not a real it's not the right way to do it.
I know it's not the right way, but are you skipping any of the Sefirot by doing that? That's my question.
Bevada you are. You're trying to consolidate both at the same time by triggering, half avodah, if you want.
Mm-hmm.
But you definitely miss something.
Okay.
Now, like back to what I was saying, the Zohar Kadosh explains and says that it's one thing to have the tefillah and do the tefillah verbally, bedibur, but it's also to make sure to accompany the tefillah not only bedibur but also b'maaseh, with actions. Okay? And how do we do that? So we accompany the tefillah with tevilah, right?
With what?
Tevilah, litvol.
Okay.
Go to the mikveh. Okay, that's the first maaseh, first action, tahara.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then talit, then tefillin, and then walking to shul. Those are the 4, if you will, the 4 layers. These are the 4 layers of actions, okay, that we need to do. Good?
I don't know why this 4, but I don't understand why this 4. Walking to shul is as high as the tevilah.
I'm sorry?
Walking to shul is as high as the tevilah.
Lamalo.
I'm asking you. I don't know. Going to shul, walking to shul.
The tevilah represents the world of Atzilut, all purity.
Mm-hmm.
The talit represents the kisei hakavod, which is the olam habri'ah.
Mm-hmm.
Tefillin represents the connection, right? And the crystallization, the understanding, the conceptualization of the Torah, which is the olam hayetzirah.
Okay.
The parchment.
And Asiya is walking. Is Asiya. Right. You can have everything, but if you don't go to shul, it doesn't count.
Well, we understand that from HaKnesset, right? But HaKnesset also.
No, but I'm saying if you can have all the intention of doing tevilah, talit, tefillin, but if you don't do the Asiya, if you don't move, then you're not going to do the mitzvah.
Correct. So we have those 4 actions that basically, right, put a trigger or align the 4 olamot through the actions, and are now ready to be infused and elevated through the tefillah.
Okay, beautiful.
Good.
Unbelievable. What I don't understand is why is it backwards? Why you start walking to shul? Why you start walking from Asiya to? In other words, you said tevilah is first or tevilah is after. You pray and then you go to the tevilah. You do the tevilah first and then you pray.
No, you do your tefillah. For Fadah, you do tevilah first.
So that's what I'm saying. You start from the top and then you go to the bottom.
Yes, because you need to organize it. You bring it down. You bring the olamot with the action, you align them, okay, in order for the tefillah to go up and come back down.
Come on down. So you definitely have to shower before you go to shul.
I
mean,
didn't
if you're
shower,
not gonna go
I don't
tevilah,
but
the shower.
whatever, netilat yadayim, or yeah,
Right, something like that, something related to water.
nachon.
Beautiful.
So here what we see that from the beginning of the day, right? If you understand what you're doing, you understand the importance of Netilat Yadayim or of Tevilah, you understand the importance of the Seder, of Talit before Tefillin, and then of the walking, even the walking, what do you have to have in mind when you walk?
No, but but that's 1 second. Yeah, you're right. Tell you before the right. I see loot down. I got you.
You understand? It's incredible when you think about it. The precision.
But when you leave, when you finish, you're doing the reverse, so it doesn't work.
You don't need to do anything anymore. Your actions are done. You don't need to do more action.
Okay.
Here you see how everything is so precise and so aligned. And from the moment you wake up, every action that seems to be as mundane as it gets has such an impact in now the real purpose of the avodah. It's incredible when you think about it. I mean, we're saying it in a very simple form and way, but when you dive into it, it's spectacular. It's
incredible.
It's mind-boggling.
So how do you go about the Ashkenazim that don't wear a talit? Do they not tap into that?
Not all Ashkenazim don't wear. You're talking about
single ones
that are single. Never said that, so they don't.
So they don't tap into that.
I know that maybe they have but they have the tzitzit katan, so they make it on tzitzit. They make the bracha on the
Okay.
So
beautiful.
All right, Sadiq.
Wait, stop the recording for a minute. I want to talk to you for a minute. Stop the